This piece has been in the Guest family for over 100 years now. An Asian piece from the great samurai country of Japan. Even the figure sitting on the tiger has samurai swords, depicting its origins.
That's a Japanese robe, not a Chinese robe.
The tiger part of the piece has typical features of Japanese tigers.
Complete with the fierce look, the popping eyes.
The eyes on the tiger are what is referred to as decorated in enamels over a biscuit, which is unglazed. From the Meiji period, which is from about 1868 to 1880, this figure really has stood the test of time. The figure is perfectly detailed and still in good condition.
Even the sandals that he's wearing are perfectly detailed. Meiji porcelains, Japanese late 19th century porcelain.
Meiji porcelains of this type are in high demand at the moment due to their level of detail and provenance, and valued at,
I would say at auction $2,000 to $3,000 would not be a surprising price. It might bring more, considerably more.
Thank you.
From Scotland with love and fine craftsmanship, what we have on the show today is a well-crafted pottery piglet. This fine work of Scottish pottery was made on the east coast of Scotland, and it was commissioned by Wemyss Pottery
in Fifeshire by the firm of Robert Heron and Son, otherwise known as Wemyss Pottery.
The figure painted on the piglet is most certainly either one of the two South African protagonists during the Boer War.
The Boer War was one of England's skirmishes in the colonies that we had between about 1899 and 1902.
This piglet pottery could have either been a decorative piece or simply a piggy bank. But upon a closer inspection, it is deduced that this piece is a spirit flask due to the cork in its snout. A really rare piece. For it to sell at its best price, it would need to be sold in Scotland, in the region of
possibly fetch between $3,000 and $3,500.
Given to this guest by her father and warned not to dispose of it, this shell vase has been kept by her. A fine example of Victorian extravagance, the vase has a shell held up by coral and several tones of gold decoration.
There is some gold in the paint, yes, but they've used other materials to bind it.
Made by Royal Worcester circa 1880, this vase was a fairly expensive luxury item at the time. This particular vase is made of porcelain, as opposed to some others made during that time period, which were made with majolica.
So it was a fairly popular model when they made it.
Wow, it's beautiful.
At retail today, this fine piece of Victorian style, with its unique design, would be valued at
a retail price today would be around $400 to $600.
Well, the value to me is...
This stunning diamond necklace, a cherished heirloom, once belonged to the guest's great-aunt Virginia. Family lore suggested Virginia acquired the necklace around 1910 and may have even worn it while traveling to Europe on the Lusitania. The necklace is from the Belle Epoque period origin, with its delicate platinum setting and beautiful old mine-cut diamonds. The design maximized the sparkle of the diamonds, especially under candlelight, which was the primary source of illumination during that era. Also, the chain attached to the necklace is a later addition, replacing the original clasp. While this meant any hallmarks on the back were obscured, the overall design and craftsmanship suggested a possible French or Parisian origin. Given the necklace's age, good condition, and diamond quality, the estimated insurance replacement value on this piece is
conservatively $40,000 to $60,000 for insurance replacement value.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The guest inherited a beautiful Edwardian necklace from her grandmother. The necklace features a stunning 14-karat pink topaz, an exceptional size for this gemstone. Sometimes referred to as a Kleilemann topaz for its deep pink color, the stone is a real showstopper. The necklace also boasts a surrounding halo of old mine diamonds and a strand of natural pearls. The design philosophy is less is more, where the focus is on the quality of the gemstones rather than the abundance of diamonds or metal. The necklace also included an interesting historical detail, the initials BBB, which upon inspection turned out to be the hallmark of Bailey, Banks, and Biddle. They are a prestigious Philadelphia jewelry company established in 1832. They were known as the Tiffany of Philadelphia. While the guest previously had the necklace appraised at $10,000, considering the exceptional pink topaz, the old mine diamonds, natural pearls, and the historical significance of the jeweler, The estimated auction value is
A piece like this would be $30,000 to $50,000.
I see. Fantastic.
Before us stands a figure that seems to evoke an ancient appeal. The guest bought this piece at an antique store.
And she says, just whatever you will offer, and I had $20 in my pocket.
This figure is said to be a Nariat figure, made by ancient West Mexican people, usually placed in tombs to accompany the deceased into the afterlife. We notice inconsistencies and lack of detail in this figure, indicating it is a modern replica of ancient Nariat figure.
This, and I want you to listen carefully for this. You hear how high-pitched that is? That's a sign.
Further questioning its authenticity is the use of paint or chemical treatments instead of natural patinas, a technique often used to make fake antiques. Despite being fake, this piece is still in excellent condition, which places this replica of remarkable ancient art at an auction value of
Normally, you'd see it, say, $50 to $100. So your $20 investment was a great one.
I would have paid that at Walmart for it.
There we go.
Quite a peculiar looking and compact table, it was given to this guest by a very close friend of hers. This table was made by Danish-American furniture designer named Jens Risum. Risum was one of the first designers to introduce Scandinavian design in the United States.
That is known for its pared down, simple, and honest, humble materials. What I like about this is it's really fantastic, good, honest, clean condition.
Typical of Risum's designs, this table is marked by its clean, straight lines and minimalist aesthetic. The wood used to make the table could either be teak or walnut, with every aspect of its design reflecting meticulous attention to detail and craftsmanship. This simple yet unique-looking table from one of the top contributors to modern furniture design would be valued at
If this piece sold for less than $1,500.
Oh my God. Thank you. That's really cool. That's so neat.
a toy of one of the more famous comic strip characters from the 1920s, Andy Gump. This character was drawn by a man named Sidney Smith. The toy was made by Arcade Manufacturing Company based in Illinois and was made using cast iron. It's quite rare to see metal toys still with their original boxes like this one. The car had the number 348 on it, which has a history behind it.
Sidney Smith's first comic character was Doc Yak. Doc Yak had a car that he bought at a junkyard for $3.48, and that's what it was called. So this was originally Doc Yak's car. It became Andy Gump's.
And the paint used for the toy is absolutely top-notch. The rarity of having a metal toy of this quality still with its original box would put its valuation at
This toy in 1992 would have been worth every bit of $6,000.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
The same thing it's worth today.
Really?
It's quite rare to see original drawings like this. But what's even more interesting is the painting represents the pinnacle of Danish expertise. This drawing was created by a Danish designer, Erik Magnusson. The drawing is called a cubic coffee set and was done in 1927.
Because he was already a world-renowned silver designer, by Gorham in 1925 for just a brief period, 1925 to 1929.
It was created to model a motif by Picasso and other expert painters.
This is the artist rendering before, presumably, the coffee set was made. The coffee set was made, it was heralded by the New York Times as being the lights and the beauty of New York City, or Manhattan.
The drawing is quite dramatic, given a certain appeal to its admirer. This is arguably the most magnificent piece of work done by Erik. At an auction, this masterpiece would be sold at the price of
Minimum of $10,000 to $15,000 in the auction market today.
Wow, that's surprising. That's great.
This sword is quite a piece of history. It was used during the American Civil War. The sword is over 150 years old and has still maintained its quality. It was made by a firm called William McElroy.
William J. McElroy made swords for the Confederacy, and if you had enough money, you could actually go in and he would make you a specific sword.
The name of the sword's owner is engraved on the sword's surface.
It says J. Knight Jr., J-U-N.
Okay. And the grip looks quite firm for an item that should normally have rusted. It is quite a masterpiece crafted in sword form. At a suitable auction, this Civil War sword would fetch the price of
The sword today would retail for about $10,000.
Really? Wow.
This is an absolutely surreal engraving. It looks so realistic and yet so detailed, it must have been done by a master artist. Luckily, it was crafted by Giorgio Gizzi.
He was the patriarch of a family of engravers out of Mantua in central Italy,
who was known as the Renaissance master of Italy because of his superior engravings. The engraving was made after a painting by another expert called Angelo Bronzino. Angelo's painting style was quite unique and appealing to many people. This painting is quite famous for its creators, who were highly revered by many painters. Because of the beauty of this item, it would retail at the price of,
at auction, for between $15,000 and $20,000.
Oh my God.
And I wouldn't be surprised if it sold for more. I think
Are
that's
you
conservative.
serious?
This magnificent work of sculpture was done by a famous artist. The artist in question is particularly famous for his work on Mount Rushmore, Gutzon Borglum. This piece was exhibited at the St. Louis Exposition of 1904. The sculpture is of the final emperor of the Julio-Claudian dynasty, Nero.
It's maybe a different image than most folks know of Nero.
As a regal emperor
That's true.
ruling his domain.
Right.
And is duly signed and dated by Borglum. Cast in bronze, it is hard to know how many of these pieces were created, as it was never documented.
The actual archives of the Roman bronze works are at the Ammon-Carter Museum, and you might be able to contact them. They have the records.
The piece has some greening on it due to corrosion, which is advised to be checked by professional conservators. Although it is not one of the works one would typically associate with Borglum, it is nonetheless of a historical figure, and in a gallery setting would be valued at
in the $6,000 to $8,000 price range.
Right? That's wonderful.
The guest scored a lucky find at an estate sale, a work by French artist Auguste Herbin for just $200. The piece is identified as a gouache painting, a type of opaque water-based paint created in 1950. Herbin began his career in the early 20th century deeply influenced by the Cubist movement that shattered traditional forms and perspectives. Alongside giants like Picasso and Braque, Herbin explored the fragmentation and reassembly of objects, a technique evident in some of his early works. After the war, Herbin continued to experiment with different styles. He dabbled in abstract and representational styles, reflecting the artistic movements of the time. Around 1938, a new influence emerged, the Italian Trecento, a period known for its emphasis on geometric forms and simplified compositions. This influence is evident in the guest's painting, where clean lines and bold colors take center stage. Herbin's fascination with geometry deepened, leading him to create his plastic alphabet in 1942. This artistic innovation assigned specific geometric shapes to letters, and sometimes imbued colors with additional meaning. The hidden message in the painting could not be deciphered, but that didn't diminish its value. The work was a testament to Herbin's artistic evolution and exploration. Considering the artist's acclaim, the date of creation, and the overall quality of the work, the estimated retail gallery value of the painting is...
It might sell for something like $30,000 or $35,000. Oh, that's wonderful.
The guest brought in a fascinating relic, a cartridge pouch they believe to be from the Civil War. The pouch is actually much older, dating back to the Revolutionary War. This cartridge pouch, crafted for a British soldier in the 43rd Light Infantry, had potentially witnessed pivotal battles that shaped the course of American history. It is still in exceptional condition, and it has survived over 2 centuries with nearly all its original components intact, including the leather shoulder sling, the cleaning pick hook used to clear musket barrels, the brass plate emblazoned with the designation 43rd Light Infantry, the red cloth backing that added a touch of color, the solid wooden block that provided structure, the closure tab that ensured the pouch remained shut, and even the metal finial at the bottom. Finding all these elements together in such good condition was incredibly rare, making the pouch a true collector's prize. While a Civil War cartridge pouch might fetch around $1,500, the Revolutionary War provenance and excellent condition of this item skyrocketed its value to a staggering...
This one on today's market would retail for between $20,000 and $25,000.
My Lord.
What you are looking at here is a unique and intriguing piece of art, a painting by the legendary musician Frank Zappa. This wasn't just any painting, it was a work created during Zappa's junior college years, making it a very rare early glimpse into his artistic talent. It's a fascinating imagery of an orchestra and possibly an opera scene, hinting at Zappa's future musical career, known for its theatrical and complex arrangements. This piece held immense significance because it was not only an early artwork by a beloved musician, but it was also believed to be the very first piece of Zappa's art ever encountered by the appraiser in their 30 years of experience. The unique nature of the painting made it difficult to assign a fixed value. However, considering Zappa's fame, the scarcity of his artwork, and the historical significance of this particular piece, the estimated value is,
I would say it's somewhere in the $15,000 to $25,000 range.
Wow.
Have you ever seen such a fascinating piece of history? What we have here is a National Republican chart from the 1860 presidential campaign. This informative chart, published by H.H. Lloyd shortly after Abraham Lincoln's nomination, wasn't a typical campaign poster, but rather a commercially produced piece. There is a lot of historical context surrounding this chart, especially the central issue of slavery and its expansion westward. The chart visually depicted the free states, slave states, and the disputed territories in question, making a clear statement against the spread of slavery. The chart's significance stemmed from its direct connection to a pivotal moment in American history. Very few such charts still exist in such good condition today, perhaps less than 100 worldwide. The fact that the Guess chart had been professionally conserved to maintain its stability further increased its value. Considering its rarity, historical importance, and excellent condition, the estimated retail value of the chart is remarkable.
I would expect this to have a value of about $14,000.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful.
The guest brought in a delightful piece of pop culture history. 3 chipmunk puppets, Alvin, Simon, and Theodore. They were created by the father-in-law of the guest, who himself had performed with them on iconic shows like The Ed Sullivan Show and American Bandstand. They held great significance, having been created by Ross Bagdasarian, stage name Dave Seville. They were not only puppets, but also the first animated singing group to achieve chart-topping success with their hit Witch Doctor, better known as the Chipmunk Song. Despite the niche market for puppets in general, the cultural importance of these particular puppets cannot be overemphasized. Having been featured on national television and remaining popular for decades, they transcended ordinary toys and became a symbol of American entertainment. While acknowledging the puppets' lack of perfect storage over the years, they are in excellent condition and have unique details like the initials on their shirts. Given their historical significance and cultural impact, the estimated value, not for selling but for insurance purposes, is,
I would certainly put no less than a $10,000 insurance value on them. Worth every bit of that. I mean,
for the 3 of
for
them?
the 3 of them.
A beautiful piece of pottery, a vase believed to be from an Ohio artist, was brought in by the guest. Some surprising facts about the vase is that it is actually a product of the arts and crafts movement created sometime between 1905 and 1915. More importantly, it wasn't made in Ohio, but by the renowned Gruby Pottery of Boston, Massachusetts. What made this vase special is that Gruby Pottery was known for its high-quality, organic-looking pieces, often glazed to resemble vegetables like cucumbers or squash. This particular vase had a beautiful green glaze, the most sought-after color by collectors. The handcrafted details, like the individually applied leaves and unique ivory buds, further increased its value. While a few small chips brought down the value slightly, the estimated worth is remarkable.
I would estimate that conservatively these days at $4,500 to $6,500.
Oh, wonderful.
Purchased for his daughter, who desired to learn piano lessons, this guest is on the show with an old guitar for appraisal. He acquired it for $800 at the time. It is a Gibson L7 guitar from the 1940s. This guitar is very original with all parts intact. Also, the strings are in good condition and it comes with its original case, and a retail price would be,
I would put it somewhere between $3,500 and $4,500.
Gosh.
This is a clock that was purchased in 1780 by the guest's parents and is brought in for appraisal. The clock was made by William Ferguson of Hennick's. One interesting thing about the clock is the large image and the size. Ferguson was a well-known wall clock maker in the 17th century, but the case was carved at a later date, and this kind of carving is not sought after in the market. Hence, an auction price for the piece would be around.
A clock like this would sell on a retail level from $3,500 to $4,000.
Okay.
A piece inherited from her mother, purchased by her grandmother in the early 1950s, is brought in by the guest. The painting was bought during an exhibition from the artist whose name is on the painting as E.M. Floyd. E.M. Floyd was known as a China painter, which was uncommon at the time, but she had great talents. However, the original painting is in Paris, hanging in the Musée d'Orsay, and was painted by one of the well-known French academic painters in the 19th century by the name William Bouguereau-Moreau. The original painting was larger than the one presented and was called L'Assault in French, which means on the painting, the central figure, which represents the youth, is being assaulted. It is a celebrated painting in the French academic tradition. Hence, this decorative painting on porcelain, done in a semi-amateur manner, would not sell well in the market, but a fair insurance value would be.
And I think if we were to put an insurance value on it, we'd have to go as high as $2,500.
I think so too. Thank you very much. And I'm expecting the Louvre to call me at any time and say, please send it, and I'll say you may borrow it.
The guest brought in his dad's watch that was received after his 35 years of service in 1929. It is a Hamilton watch made by the Hamilton Company, and the model is called a Pacer, an innovative watch made with a modern idea that you won't have to wind the watch again as far back as 1957 to 1966. But the problem is that the watch movement was not fail-proof, so it failed. What makes Hamilton watches collectible is because Hamilton allowed other companies to put their logo on the watches. This watch is particularly rare because all the numerals on the watch are screws and bolts, which was the product of the company that gifted the guest's father. Watch collectors would love this piece, and at an auction, a reasonable price would be.
Today, the collectors, particularly the Hamilton Electric collectors, will go crazy for this. $2,000, maybe $2,200 for a watch like this.
6 large paintings, which were done by the guest's great-great-aunt, are brought on the show. The guest also brought along a photograph of the artist to corroborate their story. This painting is known as immigrant art. Immigrant art can be explained as a house painter who was trained to paint on fake wood or marble. The paintings are decorations for a building as you would see in houses around California and in the West. It was a tradition that came to America in the 1850s to 1860s, and these pieces would be worth around.
The value of these, I would say about $300 to $500 a piece.
That's interesting to know.
Acquired about 20 years ago at a flea market for $20, this de Médicis cup and saucer are brought in for appraisal. The guest loved collecting de Médicis items, hence she got this cup and saucer, which are from the White Star Line, a British shipping company. After seeing the movie Titanic, where she saw flashes of this dinnerware, she concluded it was worth more. There are numbers at the bottom of each piece referring to the British registration system, and the date of manufacture is 1906. Most British ships had china with this pattern, but this particular pattern is known as Westero pattern, and it's possible it was on the Titanic. Another thing to note is that this piece comes in different variations and sizes, which determines the price. At an auction, this dinnerware would be worth about.
For the cup and saucer, at auction, we're looking at $500 to $700. So not bad for a $20
No,
purchase.
I think so. I think that's very nice to know. Thank you.
The guest's father, a German immigrant and art lover, collected the art that appealed to him. After moving to the U.S. during the war, he collected this piece of Maurice Utrillo, which the guest has owned for over 30 years. The appraiser detailed Utrillo's life, mentioning his painter mother, Suzanne Valadon, and his struggles with illness and alcoholism. The painting was notably signed by Maurice Utrillo at the bottom, adding an authentic touch to the artwork's overall value and provenance. Utrillo, who had no formal training, often painted Paris scenes from his window during the 1930s. The painting featured Montmartre and the Galette in the background, and the appraiser noted that these scenes remain prevalent in Montmartre today, highlighting the authenticity and timelessness of Utrillo's work. The appraiser praised the finesse and detailing of the painting, noting the French flag at the top and the figures ascending the alleyway. It was an oil painting, evident from the thumbtack marks where Utrillo would pin the paper to a board while he worked on it. The appraised artwork, an oil on paper from the James Vignon Gallery in Los Angeles, was estimated between
I think that this would bring at auction somewhere in the neighborhood of $80,000 to $120,000.
The guest brought a set of boxes that she had acquired from her brother. The items were identified as snuff boxes due to their attractiveness. The boxes featured a type of enamel called guilloche, creating a silk-like appearance. The appraiser explained that the enamel layers over the engraved surface patterns create varying light and dark effects. These boxes had Austrian hallmarks dating them to around 1800 to 1820. Additionally, another series of marks indicated that they were imported into France. The boxes were considered highly collectible due to their enameling and historical context. The third box, featuring an enamel portrait of Napoleon, was identified as a jewel box. Based on desirability, the value suggested was
at auction, if these were going to come up for auction, I would imagine that these would have a pre-sale estimate of between $2,500 and $3,500 a piece.
Okay.
The guest brought a salesman's sample of a barn, which he believed dated to around the turn of the century. The appraiser agreed, estimating it to be from approximately 1900. The sample featured a constructed front section, indicative of how the entire structure, including the back, would be built. It likely demonstrated the construction of the first bays with all the bracing, which could then be duplicated to extend the barn's length. The appraiser explained that salesmen would use this frame to sell prefabbed frames. During a barn raising, neighbors would be invited to help erect the structure. Typically, men would use oxen to lift the front and sides, attach the trusses, and then another group would nail everything together. The barn owner would usually complete the walls and roof with help from his family, as the community's involvement was essential for raising the barn. The appraiser found the historical significance of the salesman's sample fascinating, emphasizing its value not just monetarily, but also as a piece of history. Much to the guest's surprise and satisfaction, he estimated its worth to be between
I would say it was worth between perhaps $1,200 and $1,500.
Wow.
Okay?
Yeah.
The guest displayed a set of silverware that he acquired from his mother. The items originally belonged to Vita Jacks, the daughter of David Jacks. The guest shared information about David Jacks, the largest landowner in Monterey County. The silver pieces were identified as being crafted by George Jensen, a prominent Copenhagen silversmith. The appraiser noted that Jensen had been renowned for his high-quality work since the early 1900s. The pieces, dating to around 1920, included a coffee pot, teapot, creamer, and covered sugar bowl, with additional pieces. The remarkable set featured Queen Anne influences and a unique handle placed at a 90-degree angle to the spout. Given the historical context, the appraised value for the full set was
The insurance value for what we have on the table here, the four pieces, would be somewhere in the $17,500 range.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
Wow.
A very dear friend of theirs had passed away several years ago, and his wife decided that they would be the best caretakers of his cherished chair. The guest believed the chair to be around 90 years old, considering that their friend would have turned 90 in March. The appraiser revealed that the chair was actually much older than expected. To the guest's amazement, the appraiser dated the chair back to the 1700s, likely the 1780s. The chair was probably made in the mid-Atlantic region. While many children's rockers and chairs are appraised at low values due to their commonality, this particular chair stood out. It had an older, wonderful surface with 2 layers of paint, including an early red, likely from its original paint, and a later Victorian red that had deteriorated. This type of surface was very desirable to collectors. The appraiser highlighted the exceptional form of the chair, noting the original, beautifully shaped rockers and the fabulous turnings that collectors love. Although the seat was a replacement, the chair's rarity was increased by its 4 slats, compared to the more common 3-slat versions. Despite a long-ago break in the upper slat, its value remains unaffected. as suggested by the appraiser.
In this condition, I'm sure a collector would happily pay a retail price of about $1,500 for it.
Wow.
The guest and her husband purchased the vase about 30 years ago in Seattle at an estate sale. They thought it was beautiful but weren't sure if it was authentic Tiffany piece due to its large size. The vase was a Favrile vase, made using a technique where the design is created by pulling off hot glass and tooling it while it's still molten. The appraiser explained that the mark on the side was likely a byproduct of the glass-making process. The guest had concerns about the vase being a fake, but the appraiser assured her it's a genuine Tiffany. The mark on the bottom read Louis Tiffany, confirming its authenticity. The vase dated back to the early 1900s, and it was a beautiful example of Art Nouveau design. This valuable and authentic piece of Tiffany glass, due to its beauty and historical significance, was retailed at.
Well, I would say in a retail store in New York, you could easily expect a price of $8,000 to $10,000 on the vase.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
This is a fascinating collection of chisels made by a company called D.R. Barton. These chisels were produced in Rochester, New York around 1870 to 1880. D.R. Barton was one of the first and best toolmakers in the United States. It is extremely rare to find chisels from that time period, not to mention a complete set of finely made chisels. This set of high-demand chisels among collectors would be valued at what price? We present a golden saxophone with a magnificent presence in a fine case. The guest inherited this instrument from his father-in-law. This is a Selmer alto saxophone made in 1950 by Henry Selmer Paris, a famous French enterprise known for manufacturing wooden or brassy musical instruments. This Selmer alto saxophone was produced among the popular classic Super Balanced Action series, among which many famous rock jazz bands of the time played at that time because of its precise intonation across the entire range.
But most of the major American alto saxophone players have used this horn.
There are engravings on the instrument with the manufacturer's serial number and other engravings that beautify the saxophone intricately.
And the engraving was probably done here in America once it arrived.
Looking closely, we see that the saxophone is in an excellent condition. So at auction, this Selmer alto saxophone, representing exceptional musicality and historical importance, would accrue
between $7,000 and $9,000. Wow.
This scrimshaw tooth is a cherished family heirloom of our guest today. It has been in his family since the early 1900s.
In 1920, my great-grandfather received this from a hobo that he'd helped out.
Engraved on the tooth is a picture of the ship Francis, which was commissioned in 1826 and sank in 1854. Crafted from sperm whale tooth, it bears the signature of its carver, Fred Myrick.
So we feel that he probably served on the Francis after the Susan.
Myrick's craftsmanship on this piece is exquisite, showcasing meticulous attention to detail. There is a red stain visible on the tooth, likely due to prolonged storage.
What was that for?
Yeah, the red staining, we believe, it sat in my grandmother's house for years on a red velvet, and that was the only thing we could figure stained it.
The stain can be easily cleaned, and this beautifully engraved tooth is estimated to be worth...
Today, we're going to give it an insurance valuation of $150,000 to $200,000.
That's extraordinary. Oh, most definitely. It's just part of the family and the story of it and how it came to us. It's definitely a family treasure.
This charming Santa Claus figure has a bit of a story to it. It was originally purchased by this young guest's father and then given to him. The toy was made by Hubley, a renowned toy manufacturer known for their cast-iron toys. Featuring the classic galloping reindeer, the toy is in excellent original condition. Though to untrained eyes it might look like it has been repainted, it remains untouched, which is quite rare.
Well, it's kind of odd when you find something so perfect that it looks like it's been repainted.
Wow.
Manufactured in Lancaster, Pennsylvania during the 1920s and 30s, this piece is a true gem. Despite minor flakes and chips, it's one of the finest examples of Hubley's toys out there. At auction, this delightful Santa Claus toy would be valued at
between $3,000 and $4,000. This would bring at auction.
He will be so pleased.
This dragonfly pin carries a story that dates back to the 18th century. The guest's husband purchased it for her at an auction 55 years ago. Interestingly, the dragonfly's wings are mounted on springs, allowing them to move and mimic the fluttering of a real dragonfly. And this piece is a stunning example of Art Nouveau jewelry, featuring transparent enamel.
And they were worn up on the shoulder. They would pin it right on the shoulder.
That's exactly where I wore it.
Yeah, that's where you wore it. I know you bought dresses just the right color to match this jewel.
Additionally, the wings are outlined with rose-cut diamonds set in silver. The pin also showcases a blue stone at the top and green enameled eyes. However, it was later discovered that this exquisite piece is a high-quality replica of the original Art Nouveau design.
Because in actuality, the condition was too good. The other thing that we found was that the blue stone at the top was glass and not a real sapphire.
At auction, this beautifully adorned dragonfly pin replica would fetch a significant value of
easily fetch about $3,000 to $5,000 as a copy.
Well, I guess so. And I thank you very much.
This guest presented a parquetry fruit dish created by her grandfather in the 1920s in Hattiesburg, Mississippi.
Did this as a hobby. He was a car inspector for the Southern Railroad for 51 years. He did this, and he also did a dining room table, same type plan.
Parquetry involves creating geometric patterns with small pieces of wood, and this piece is a stunning example of this art form.
This was a men's hobby and almost referred to in a way as men's quilting. So men would work by themselves typically to create these pieces.
This dish contains approximately 7,000 individual pieces of wood, intricately arranged into both geometric and floral marquetry designs. This piece falls into the best category of parquetry due to its complexity and the fine detail of the work. Even the bottom of the dish, which is typically unseen, is embellished, highlighting the maker's commitment to perfection. Well preserved and in pristine condition, this exquisite piece would fetch.
I think a nice retail price for this piece would be somewhere in the $3,000 to $4,000 area.
Yes. My family will be proud.
A magnificent book of prints is spread out before us. Our guest inherited this treasure from her husband's family. This breathtaking masterpiece is a work of the legendary Johannes Stratinus. He was a prolific designer of prints, which were circulated widely throughout Europe for centuries.
He was born in Bruges. He moved down to Italy in the 1550s. He was born in 1523, and he worked with the famous art historian Vasari.
The works of Johannes Stratinus was extremely rare and valuable.
The book is very rare. His artwork is very rare. There's 104 of these wonderful engravings.
This remarkable print is a first edition, published in 1578. With its excellent condition and rarity, this beautiful piece would have an auction estimate of...
We would safely put an estimate of $20,000 to $30,000 on it.
I hear them say you're kidding all the time on the program.
We're not kidding. We don't kid you.
The modeling of this sculpture shows the artist's innovative carving skills. This piece is a sensational 1917 bronze sculpture by Daniel Chester French, who was an American sculptor of the late 19th and early 20th centuries. The initials DCF on the piece identify this bronze sculpture as the work of French. Known for iconic public commissions like the Minuteman statue in Concord, Massachusetts, and the Abraham Lincoln Monument in Washington, D.C., French's works are highly esteemed. This particular sculpture, a beautifully modeled female nude, is unusual for French, who is more recognized for his monumental public pieces. Despite its rarity among his typical subjects, the sculpture showcases his exceptional skill. In today's market, this bronze sculpture by French is valued at...
The current auction value for this would probably be in the $5,000 to $7,000 range.
That's great.
The design of this Lagras glass vase is top-notch. This piece is a remarkable piece from the early 20th century, likely dating to around 1910. Lagras, a French company that produced exquisite glassware, has this vase as one of their finest examples that stands out. The vase showcases a combination of decorative techniques, which features a mottled green glass with maroon striations and an acid-etched surface. The most captivating aspect is the gold treatment that appears like a metal mounting. What makes this piece particularly special is its size and attention to detail, as larger pieces of LaGrasse are often more commercial. The signature Ellen Company on the underside signifies its status as a special piece and is valued at
between $3,000 and $5,000.
Oh, wow. Oh,
So
that's wonderful.
Showcased here is a piece of silverware that exemplifies the seamless merging of luxury and utility from the past. This item is the Belmont Trophy from 1908, which the guest's mother purchased at an antique show in 1971. We can identify that this piece was made by Tiffany & Company because it bears the maker's initials underneath.
And this letter M corresponds to a gentleman whose name was John C. Moore II, who took over the factory management in 1907.
On top of the trophy sits a silver horse figurine representing the horse that won the award. Opening the trophy reveals it is a humidor, complete with a copper lining. Finally, the piece came with its original case, further enhancing its value. We can expect this silver trophy by Tiffany to command a significant value of
That it might bring between $30,000 and $40,000 in today's current auction.
Wow, that's amazing.
This Cartier lion brooch from around 1960 is a remarkable piece of jewelry that showcases Cartier's exceptional craftsmanship and luxurious design. This brooch features a majestic lion meticulously crafted from yellow gold. The lion's mane is intricately detailed, showcasing a combination of polished and textured finishes that brings the figure to life. The nose of the lion is set with one solid emerald, which adds a striking contrast and a touch of vivid color. Given that this brooch represents the artistry and elegance that Cartier is known for, it's valued at
And today, if you had to buy it at auction, you'd be raising your hand upwards of $6,000.
Oh my Lord.
That's right.